Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Arirang Newsbreak. I'm Handaeun in Seoul. In a bid to hear from the press about public opinion, President Park Geun-hye sat down with the chief news editors of major media outlets for lunch at the presidential office this afternoon. During the event, the president outlined her three-year economic innovation plan that involves creating growth engines to sustain Korea into the next 30 years. She also pledged to listen more closely to the public and work for their needs.
남은 그 임기 기간 동안 이번 선거에 나타난 그 민의를 잘 반영해서 또 변화와 개혁을 이끌면서 또 각계각층과 협력과 소통을 잘 이루어 나갈 수 있도록 각고의 노력을 다 하겠습니다.
After a 5-minute speech, the president took questions from the news chiefs of 46 domestic outlets with permanent correspondents at the presidential office of Cheongwade, including Arirang TV. We'll bring you more details from the Q&A session in our next newscast. The Korean government has announced a comprehensive restructuring plan for sectors that have lost steam as part of efforts to revamp the nation's sluggish economy. Those include shipbuilding, shipping, and steel industries. Kim Min-ji reports.
The Financial Services Commission says it will take a three-tiered approach to restructuring Korea's traditional core industries.
Business conditions are deteriorating structurally for industries such as shipbuilding, shipping and steel, and the situation is not likely to clear up soon. We have been tasked with rooting out companies or industries that are doing poorly or supporting them to ensure they remain competitive.
The first tier will cover industries that are highly sensitive to the current economic conditions. A government consultative body will set the basic direction of the restructuring plan, which will be carried out by the individual firms and their creditors. The second tier will involve restructuring companies based on their estimated credit risk in order to either normalize their business or liquidate their assets in case of insolvency. The third tier involves restructuring companies or industries suffering from oversupply. Here, the companies will draw up their own restructuring plans, possibly involving mergers with other firms or downsizing their facilities, and the government will support them. Amid a prolonged global slowdown and falling oil prices, Korea's shipbuilding giants have been hit hard with eye-watering losses on the back of cancelled orders and construction delays. Last year, the country's three major shipbuilders posted a combined loss of roughly $7 billion, forcing them to lay off workers. The shipping industry is in a similar situation, with the debt of the sector's biggest player, Hanjin Shipping, estimated at nearly $5 billion. The Financial Services Commission chairman said that for the restructuring plans to be successful, the investors, creditors, and employees must all share the burden. He vowed to expand the assets of state-run banks as well as come up with measures to support workers who have been laid off. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korea's growth rate has remained in the 0% range for a second straight quarter. The slowing growth, prompted by sluggish demand at home and abroad, is deepening concerns of low growth becoming a long-term trend. Hang Ji-hye has more on that.
The Korean economy slowed for another quarter. The Bank of Korea says the economy grew just 0.4% in the first quarter of this year from the previous one. This marks a slowdown from the 0.7% growth posted a quarter before and is equal to the pace of expansion posted in the second quarter of last year when the country was hit hard by an outbreak of MERS. Weighed down by slumping exports and feeble domestic demand, the first quarter growth figure came despite aggressive government spending.
The government front-loaded its budget in the first quarter, which pulled up investments in social overhead capital. The government's spending and investments contributed greatly to first quarter growth.
With that, construction investment went up almost 6% in the first quarter, while facilities investment plunged by about the same amount. Exports that have been on a downslide for over a year now dropped 1.7%, and private consumption dipped 0.3%. Citing the sluggish first quarter figures, Korea's central bank has trimmed its latest forecast for the economy to below 3%. This has further stoked worries of Korea falling into a low-growth trap, a reason why some analysts see more monetary easing down the road. But as the central bank has said the economy will show signs of a gradual recovery this quarter, economists say more figures need to be monitored. And facing skepticism that a rate cut will not be a cure-all for conditions that mostly stem from structural issues, experts say, the Bank of Korea will remain cautious about moving the rate that already sits at a record low 1.5%. 황지혜, 아리랑 뉴스.
The United Nations has called on North Korea to abide by Security Council resolutions banning the North from testing ballistic missile technology, responding to a question about Pyongyang's test fire of a submarine-launched ballistic missile over the weekend. The spokesperson for the UN Secretary General said the regime needs to stop all provocations. However, defying continual warning from the global community, the reclusive regime appears to be preparing to launch another intermediate-range missile. Seoul military sources say activities linked to missile launch preparations have been detected and that the missile is likely to be the mid-range Musudan missile Pyongyang fired on April 15th but failed. That's all for now from all of us here at Arirang. Thank you for watching.